All right, welcome everybody to the November 12th nteract contributor call. Let's kick things off. I posted in the chat the Google Doc for notes, and yeah, we're all here, alive and happy. So, anybody got something to start with?
I can start. This is Safia.
I guess we got like a, hey, this is Safia. Oh, I guess Safia was doing an introduction. I thought you were doing
no,
talking about what you
I thought nobody could hear me, so I was like trying to.
Oh, no, we heard you. I think we were just quiet.
Okay, great. Yeah, okay. So I can give an update. We've been doing a lot of work on the TypeScript migration. We got a ton of PRs in over the weekend from Kyle, I, and John, and all of that is moving really well. If you want to jump in on the action, there is a project board on our GitHub called TypeScript Migration, as well as an issue label called TypeScript Migration. There's a few components that need to be migrated, mostly in the realm of transforms. But yeah, it's getting really close. So if you want to come help us out, do that.
Awesome. So I just posted my comment, which apparently I had left before. So I started converting one of the components and wanted to keep their original component doc style. But we're in this kind of like weird in-between thing because React docgen is what we used for previous components implicitly to like parse out the props and stuff. And the new TypeScript ones have to use this React docgen TypeScript package. So I made this like hybrid function that'll just parse props for whichever kind of file it's looking at. But it doesn't seem to, the TypeScript one doesn't seem to behave just like the original React docgen one. But I'm hoping that I'll be able to get this working. And I'll like time box myself to like an hour and a half to see if I can get it going. But then we should be in this good setup where it doesn't matter as people are transitioning components, they won't have to worry about making sure the docs are working for their TypeScript ones. I mean, they can verify it with yarn docs, but hopefully they won't have to do all the work I'll put into this. But yeah, we'll be able to keep going with their docs efforts at the same time we're doing the TypeScript migration. So yeah.
That's good to know because that's an issue with the presentational components stuff. So thank you for tackling that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think if you just finish the TypeScript part of it, I mean, even if the docs are kind of broken for it, we can finish the TypeScript stuff and then be able to charge on forward.
Sweet.
And if you post your branch, I'd be interested to see. I think one of the reasons that the components I'm working on are maybe problematic is that there's multiple exports in the file, like multiple components. React docgen was smart enough to figure out which matched the right component for it, but maybe React docgen TypeScript doesn't let you have multiple components in the file. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I guess you did post the branch, so I could just now add on to it because I remember now I reviewed it too early. Uh-oh, you're muted, John. I'm still muted.
It's Command Shift A. Okay. So yeah, I think after I make those, there are a few changes that need to be made. It's ready for review. I'm interested in talking about global find a little bit. I think there was a conversation we were gonna have yesterday that I saw the Freddie Mercury movie, which was entertaining, but what do you think is a good path to go down for implementing that incrementally?
Yeah. So
Doing it.
all the text, of course, is already in memory. And we've got a few things to help us. Some of the stuff that we've kind of stopped at is anything where it has to touch the editor, because we have to all of a sudden make code mirror controlled. Because code mirror, we can have it inject cursors or even like find particular text. What I would do, probably like aside from the nteract monorepo, is create like a create React app that has several editors in it. That they can be just text areas to begin with, but where they each have a chunk of code, and where all the state you're pushing into those. What I would think we'd store in like a top level state is like what the currently searched item is, as well as if like a search modal is open, and then start to play with what it looks like positionally, like how you could index into any one of those and highlight an area around it, or at least just you could show scroll behavior for it. But I think you could even get code mirror to do it. Like you could trigger their stuff, because there is a built-in find and replace, which used to be enabled on nteract, but it was like per cell, so it was kind of weird. But you basically have to control the whole document. It's actually an easier thing than the classic notebook, because we have full access from like a top level, since the state is being pushed down in.
So now they're all of the sources in some record somewhere, so we can just, it's already stripped of HTML and all of that. We don't have to worry
It's just text.
It's just text, yeah. And so do we care about replace, or is it just search?
I mean, I would start with search, because you don't want to make the problem harder.
Yeah.
Before you solve the initial parts.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just clarify something. So it's find within a notebook, correct? And if the cell hasn't been executed yet, is it going to find that?
Oh, like find the output or
the input? Like I've typed.
Yeah, it'll find all input even if you haven't run the cell. It's just
okay.
Like a.
But no metadata search.
Yeah, no metadata search. Just
okay.
like just whatever the user's input for code.
Cool. Thanks.
Will it be searching through output as well if the output has a text representation?
While you could make it do that, I would start with just source searching.
I guess I wanted to understand what was meant by global.
Most of the time, people are wanting this because they want refactor tools within the notebook. And stepping aside from like a desktop question, which in reality is in desktop, there's no way to just find on the page because it's just not implemented. Like we could actually put in Chrome's find, which will let you search in the same way that you do in the classic notebook. But a lot of times people have been hoping for, they're like, oh, I can't edit effectively if I can't like find and replace stuff. So this is just kind of like a beginning for how you refactor a notebook.
So instead of calling it global find, maybe call it input find for now, and then just that sounds. Does that sound better, Em?
Oh, global find is perfectly fine. I just there is ambiguity, and I wanted to clarify it.
Sure.
That's all. I don't think it's a bad term for it. I just think we need to know what we're saying, and I didn't. So now I do.
Yeah. So I think for more specific language, I think calling it just like input find now helped everyone.
That seems fine to me.
Sweet.
Cool. I guess I might as well say, so last week I went to the GraphQL Summit, worked with GraphQL a bunch, and put together kind of like just started playing with schemas for the notebook. And I'm really happy with it. and I don't actually have any direction for that within us, but so there is a project in the nteract org that's called like GraphQL schema exploration or something. People can add on to, there's no purpose or direction with it other than just kind of seeing how these tools work, what's there. I'm currently tempted, based on working with it, to start prototyping what it would look like for a real multi-user server, where you'd log in, like, let's say at the front of Jupyter Hub, and you actually know the users at that point. You have one GraphQL endpoint for it, and then you'd be able to query into, like, if you're going to start a notebook in GraphQL parlance, you'd be like, oh, you'd start this, you'd run this mutation. Similar to like a REST API, you'd post to say you want to do something. In this case, you'd be like, oh, hey, I want to run this notebook. And behind the scenes, because of how Jupyter Hub and all this stuff works, it's really more like a multi-stage operation, right? Where you're like launching a host and launching a kernel and getting access to the content and starting a session. And there's like all these things that have to happen. Right now, when we're working on this stuff in the front end, we have to manage all of these asynchronous requests, like in client side, which means that if we lose them or whatever, we end up in these weird bad states. And if instead the back end was more focused on what the front end's really trying to accomplish, we end up doing a lot less. And then at the same time, it'd also be a good place for us to put everything that we do for real time. So like all the cursors that we're going to store and everything else. And largely speaking, I'm looking at how William Stein's implemented this in the past, to see what we should probably work with and learn from. But there's a part of me that's just really worried about continuing to run like a server inside of a server and then trying to like work on stuff in there, rather than like this holistic, like, oh, I'm on a server with a lot of users. And while it has the appearance of it from Jupyter Hub, you don't really get that like view of collaboration and sharing from inside. Like once you're on a Jupyter Hub, you're kind of isolated. So yeah, it's been good to explore how people use GraphQL. And for me, at least, I'm trying to think about how we could solve current problems with it. And so for those that don't know, GraphQL is, it forces you to write a schema for things that you're going to work with. And it has very structured errors and structured responses, and a lot of developer tools around it. It was created by Facebook, but now is, the GraphQL itself rolls up under the Linux Foundation as the GraphQL Foundation. And it's just something that generally people have been adopting all over the place. So yeah, I'd like to get GraphQL on our servers. Really just needs a new endpoint. So yeah. So if people are interested, just feel free to ping me. I even started a doc to write about some of this stuff, but it was kind of like just on the side thing because I was learning. So people are
good though.
Yeah.
The doc is good.
Oh yeah, it has conversations with both Min and Safia, because they talked to me in Slack about some of these, and I was like, oh, these are good questions. We should just post them somewhere. So if people want that, just let me know.
Does it make sense to push it into the experimentation repo, redacting the names? Or cleaning it up at some point?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Because then we don't have to figure out where it's actually living at any given point in time.
Yeah. Probably good. I really enjoyed every time we've done like a conversation stock where it's like there's like a back and forth, but it's like it really lives as good documentation.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking we could drop it into the HackMD like we've been doing over on the Jupyter Hub side, and then just do a multi-pass iteration. Or actually, we could, if it's in Google Doc, which it is, we can just dump it into Markdown. The same way we do the minutes, and then just edit out the stuff.
Okay.
That's a better way to do it.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it makes sense to just put that doc inside of our like GraphQL schema exploration repo.
Right. I think so too.
Yeah, like
cool.
you said. Well, you're the one that suggested it, so I was agreeing with your idea.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, GraphQL is cool. I played with it on the site to bring back Carol in the nteract contributors members. We now actually query the GraphQL endpoint of GitHub to get the members. And it's nice to use. It's great.
There's also some gists in my GitHub account from stuff that I've played with the GitHub API. Somewhat old, but it works pretty well. So.
Sweet. Future stuff I'm going to work on this week is continued work on Bookstore, and I'll probably do more of the UI stuff for that. So that'll be actual integration of the header editor in different like I need to start working on UI for scheduling and for publishing and kind of everything around the like life cycle of a notebook document. But generally, like the top level thing is just a drawer that comes down so we can like edit the header. Elijah put a lot of it together, and we need to do the integration work to bring it into the app. So yeah. And various TypeScript things, you know. It's nice to do just one a day.
I'll probably next week look a bit into our CI stuff currently, because I recently realized we have 4 different CI configuration files lying around in our repo. So probably bring them, either deleting them, the ones we don't use, and or setting up a new pipeline. I don't know where we stand with our Azure efforts. I'd be happy to port the CircleCI stuff to Azure pipelines, or we could keep using CircleCI for all of our needs.
So I was originally hoping that we could use Azure for Windows testing. I never got a chance to really go after it. It was just like, oh, set this up and then maybe it'll be easy for us to figure out the rest. Because we're not using AppVeyor anymore. We ran into various issues there. CircleCI I'm actually really happy with, so I don't really want to. I'm okay if we have both CircleCI and Azure, even if there is redundancy, especially for the very likely case that one of them goes down, because it happens. And then we have one, and we're like, oh, okay, well, it passes over here. We'll go ahead. Like this CircleCI has been down, or Azure Pipelines has been down. So, but I think the other two, we're not using Travis at all, and then we don't use AppVeyor at all. So yeah, those might as well be ripped out.
Yeah, for Windows stuff on Azure, we hit some problems with pre-built install of CRMQ. So the Windows build didn't work out of the box. Probably we could fix it, or we just leave it as and hope that there was some permissions issue. Maybe it will get fixed in the future.
We should also reach out to Steve Dower at Microsoft if we get too stuck on that.
Okay.
He can probably help coach us through that.
Yeah, there's a work in progress PR open. Maybe
I'll take a look at it.
We could ping him in there. I can get this cleaned up later.
Cool.
I'll probably be doing more TypeScript conversion stuff for this week and just trying to get that through the finish line because it's a tiny blocker for some of the doc stuff. But yeah, more TypeScript conversion.
Is Matthew on the call?
Oh yeah, Matt was not able to make it. He posted some notes and said he's been working on some of the 1.0 goals for Papermill. Test coverage is near 90% now, and might get some investment in Scrapbook from a San Francisco startup that's interested in using it. So I can copy that over the notes too.
And there was a dot release of Papermill yesterday to fix the
Oh, right,
photo
yeah,
stuff.
photo thing, yeah. That was good. So I found out this project in the process of working on the bookstore stuff called MinIO. Not to be confused with like running MinRK as a service. But MinIO is, it implements the S3 API, but you can run it locally on your machine or deploy it. It's kind of neat. So if we wanted to have integration tests, even though they're not really touching the real S3, we could actually set up to use MinIO, because I'm definitely wanting to do that for bookstore to make sure that we're like really exercising the storage bits. Yeah. Anyways, it's pretty easy to install and run, so pretty happy with it. I can post a link too.
I think we used that at Anaconda.
You sure did, because I found out about it via Daniel Rodriguez.
Well, at least my memory isn't failing me.
Cool. Anybody have anything else?
I'm just going to wrap up the documentation contributor guide, and then the next few weeks for me is travel to Argentina and then to DC for how to use Jupyter in education. So, but I'll be around.
Cool. Thanks.
I got a bit wiring up the metadata persistence for Data Explorer, and seems pretty straightforward. I'm also going to add some of the filtering, column filtering that Michelle had sort of given an example of for the table data view. That's about it for me.
I'm continuing to work on Almond integration. So Almond, what used to be called Jupyter Scala, trying to get that integrated with and playing with Spark nicely, which should be good for the whole ecosystem. And it means that I'm learning a lot of Scala.
Thank you, Ab. It's a really good kernel, so I'm super excited. So
Yeah, it'll be great. It's just it takes a lot of effort to get started in it. That's all. Which is why I'm trying to do that on behalf of everyone.
Yay. If you need reviews, you can hit me up.
I think one extra good detail about the Scala kernel too is that it's now supported by the Scala Center and some of the tools kind of surrounding it. I'm filling in things that I would hope you'd tell everybody. So like Alex, so like the lead person behind Jupyter Scala, or Almond, what's now Almond, works at the Scala Center in Switzerland. And so I don't know how much they're putting into it, but he's able to work on it. And the reason they changed the name of the kernel is that they were worried about having the Jupyter Scala name since there were other Scala kernels. And I was like, but no, just make the best Scala kernel, and please call it that. Like, we want to tell people this is the one you use. So, is that a fair
So
estimate?
has there been any discussion about returning the name to Jupyter Scala instead of Almond so that I don't have to explain it to people every time? Or like,
I think you'd have to tell
I know
Alex.
Alex is, I mean, Alex is hanging out in the Jupyter or the nteract Slack every now and then. So I'll continue to ping him about it. But everyone else should too, if you want it to be known as Jupyter Scala. So, yeah.
I could pester him too. I mean, it's okay as long as it just keeps building up. You can just call it Jupyter Scala.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it in a good enough state that we could feature it in the kernels page on the site?
We can talk about that. It's
Okay.
just a little bit, like I said, difficult to get started up on. And I didn't just mean that in terms of, if you're coming from the perspective of Python, the way that you handle like creating effectively what is a Java app to be able to start up your kernel is very different. And so I feel like if we're going to have that there, we should probably have some kind of documentation explaining the kind of steps that you need to go through. Like, and there are steps that are listed at like on the Almond page, and it gets you up and started if what you want to do is the standard thing, but it requires downloading a sequence of executables that you may want to know more about before, like, say, running things directly from binaries on GitHub, and like what all of the things that are going to be touched. And so I would hesitate until we can feel a bit better about what the story is that we're going to give to people if they wanted to get started with it. However, it is definitely the easiest Scala kernel to get started with, especially if you don't want to deal with a Spark that you are providing, because it just sort of, it works. But yeah.
If we feature it on the kernel page and label it like experimental or preview or something like that, how would you feel about that?
I mean, I think that it would be fine to put it there. I just think that it's going to be more complicated than any of the current
Sure.
like installation instructions. And I just don't know how much we want to be taking on the burden of documentation there. That's sort of what I'm worried about. But if we want to do it, like, we should do it. Yeah, it's most of my concern is about encouraging people to engage in what I would consider bad practices, such as curling binaries from GitHub.
Yeah.
And them
which we do on the littlest Jupyter Hub and zero to Jupyter Hub. So yeah, I mean, yeah.
Sadly, it is the lowest common denominator. So it's there. We can always, the way that you encode the URL can always be, it can include the exact commit hash, and we can include the SHA hash, and we can link out for the security conscious people.
I think that's a good idea in terms of just putting it out there in some sort of experimental state and stating, you know, if you're doing this, make sure you know what you're doing, right? Use it at your own risk, that sort of thing. But I think just putting it out there would get us further in terms of having other people also looking and working at the same thing, perhaps helping with documentation or helping with some of the fixes that they're running into.
Definitely. Okay. Then yeah, let's get it up there.
And yay, M for the easiest Scholar kernel of the bunch.
I mean, I didn't write it. I'm just figuring out how to get it, like what's going on with it, so that yeah, so just so that we have better understanding of that ecosystem.
It's
Because
huge.
it basically is, well, especially since Alex has basically created an entire ecosystem upon, like, unto himself, between a package dependency manager, a command line app, like Bootstrapper, and on the fly pulling down packages, the connecting with Jupyter, and then on the other hand, the whole Ammonite stuff, which is beautiful, but it requires a lot of careful thinking.
Well, luckily the Ammonite stuff is not just Alex. That project's
Yep.
really Lee Haoyi.
Yes,
So,
but Alex contributes heavily to it, as do others, it seems. But that also relies on Corsair, which is the package resolver and downloader and bootstrapper and fetcher. So yeah, good stuff.
cool. Anybody else?
One thing I had a question about is, there's a lot of efforts that are going on right now in terms of documentation. We've done a lot of pushes in terms of like the community and understanding around what it is that we're doing with the web client. And, I think one piece that's missing is visibility into like how we're currently doing in terms of like, what are the number of people that are going to the site, what are the number of downloads we have, how long are people spending on the documentation, those indicators that could tell us if we're really being successful or if we, where do we really still have work to do. So do we have anything like that available today? It's the first question.
I don't think we have anything set up for the main site for Google Analytics. Nor do we do on, yeah, I think those are definitely open to being set up.
And then the second question is, do we have anybody here that has experience with that it would be easy for them to set up something like that, like Google Analytics?
I'm happy to take that on.
Oh, that'd be great, John. Thank you. Is it all one site, like the nteract.io and the documentation, all of that space? It's all the same domain, right? So it's essentially one site for Google Analytics, or do we have to implement it per subdomain?
We have to implement it per subdomain.
Okay.
Otherwise, it'll like the page paths will mash, and you won't be able to get any useful insight because everything will be.
Okay.
You won't be able to tell where it came from when you're looking in the per domain needs to be different.
With the single page apps, there's some trickeration that you have to do to track virtual page counts for like the routes. So there's a little bit of work that needs to be done there too.
So I've actually got some code for this, John, that I'll send over to you that I did for an internal app that's also Next.js. And you'll be able to integrate the same thing. It relies on the Next router, so every time the router changes, it will push the event for navigation change.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. And then a follow-up question is, I know Safia had launched a newsletter. Do we have counts on like how many people are subscribed to that?
Yes, Safia has data on that.
Awesome.
But Safia's not on the call anymore. So you'll have to just sync with her.
Is there?
She had to jump off.
I don't know. I'm beginning to think we might be one and the same. Kyle, like you never seem to get Safia and me on the same phone call at the same time. So
I've seen you both in the same place, so we know you both exist.
okay, fair enough. And Elijah, I was curious. I've had more people asking about the table filtering, and so I know we had talked about it. I didn't know if you had like a rough timeline on when that might be available or when you're going to start poking at it.
Yeah, I should have had it on Friday, but things got kind of weird with the metadata persistence and all of that. It should be pretty straightforward. So there's a few things early this week that are kind of looming large for me. I've got a couple of big presentations. So probably Thursday or Friday of this week. It should be pretty straight.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are really excited about that. Cool. That was all I had.
All right. I think as long as nobody else has anything, we can call it a wrap.
How cute. What kind of dog, John?
He's a German Shepherd cattle dog mix.
Oh,
He's,
adorable.
well, it says bye.
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 Thanks all.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.